seconds, and he is out. As you can see, going into the barrier.
Coming out of Acqua Minerale, climbing the hill towards the high chicane, the Variante Alta, and obviously lit the rear. A big impact, wasn't it?
Contact
it was actually
with
contact.
Mazepin. So after his misadventures on the formation, going off where Leclerc went off on the form. Ooh, and that was Nikita Mazepin, or him.
Now we're going to see the other point of view. It's not Mazepin's fault. That's the car recovering back onto the track, and obviously Nicholas Latifi not really.
With a tyre failure just a few laps from the... One step softer with the tyre compounds for the SI, didn't they, on the rears, Paul? From
was the only necessary way with the downforce.
So we're on board now with Yuki Tsunoda. First time
Even goes on the brakes.
pushing too hard, but what happened his way?
That'll be a gearbox.
So did the crash of Tsunoda catch, and could that have been part of the reason? Ferrari are not celebrating, and as you can see there, the left rear of that Haas is, well, then that will be their version of winning the Monaco Grand Prix, quite frankly. That is a proper race again. Back end's just gone.
It's been unfortunate, but listen, just carried a bit too much speed. That's what the fine margins of this sport and driving cars, you know, you want to be sliding, but when it gets...
And there are fans here in Monaco this weekend getting the best view trackside. And we're getting the view now. That
red flag for the session.
Well, he did this in Zandvoort, didn't he, as well?
He did.
In the morning before qualifying, but
Yeah, it's right in the middle of it, isn't it? He's obviously...
he seems to be getting a little bit frustrated, Carlos, doesn't he?
Yeah, he had a massive crash.
Oh, you heard him go on the loud pedal when he was in there, so mid-crash. That shows that your body, but it's a wall. But you know, this is where when you're in floor looks okay. It's just obviously both suspension, but
The nose is absorbed
certainly
it's that wheel, isn't it?
the back of the nose is there, so the crash.
Now he was going to the back of the grid anyway. He hasn't progressed from Q1 in Mexico, and he has exiting the final corner, isn't he?
Yeah, stick with it. He's on the dirty, the dust, and yeah, that kind of acceleration to line and straight to the scene of the
Barriers.
Well, if you haven't ever been out there on that weekend.
As Esteban Ocon gets ahead of Lewis, and that's Sergio Perez who's been tagged, and there's another incident involving George Russell. Verstappen in the lead from Esteban Ocon. Very much so. Oh no, you don't want to see that. Just going into this race, several drivers were expressing their incidents. Car ahead. Now, here in Baku, you are only a few centimetres away from a big accident, and Lance Stroll, who might well have been coming into the pits. And yeah, absolutely no chance of avoiding the accidents. I said potentially 30 laps into this race. Oh, that's an impact, isn't it?
Of course, Hongshire was close there, wasn't he?
Wasn't he just? I mean, it was lap 30. What about as Hamilton came from his pit stop, and in their desperation to stay ahead and to get ahead, the two are out of the Italian Grand Prix. Then what happened? Hamilton on the right-hand side, Verstappen have enough space in the initial part of that chicane.
See, Max's car hit the...
Back into the path of Lewis and then up into the air when his car makes contact.
And there we go, across the top of the rollover, who does its job, and the halo. And then I think Lewis got, obviously Lewis's rear wing, no wonder Bono told him to switch it off, the rear wing.
Red Bull rubbing against by the looks of it, and Hamilton certainly trying to get as low in his cockpit as he...
Wow, that was a very, very near miss there for Lewis.
0, but as you can see, Mick Schumacher against the barriers, and now a red flag as well. Last time we saw Mick Schumacher against the barrier.
Pressure any time just to make it FP3.
That's what happened to Mick Schumacher. That was...
previous couple of corners, and when he's arrived there at 11,
Is he okay? He went off. Yes, he's okay. He's out.
It's Hamilton who holds on to the lead. Is there 10 cars all over the road and off the road there? 5 cars, 6 cars.
The championship rival is out of the race for Lewis Hamilton at Alsace. Has now got an Alpine going up the inside. As we see, the start. Watch for Norris. Ian Swift locks up into the back of Norris.
I think Perez took a massive hit to his cooling system. I think that's because his radiator was up and some big penalties.
And Verstappen coming into the pits now, so we've got
up here over the white line into the back of Norris. It's just our wheel straight.
Well, look at the damage there on the front of Bottas. Driven the car in these conditions, it was fast and Roacel foam spread.
Turn 2.
Yeah.
We've seen a few cars get a little bit light there on the rear. Just very late in how he's lost the rear. Yes, it's actually sideways in. Yeah, it's
110, 115 miles an hour at that stage before he loses the rear. And I would be worried if I was Carlos Sainz about my gearbox there.
I think he's carried a bit too much speed through the corner and it understeered.
Oversteer. It's quite a slow moment, isn't it?
Coming around slowly, yeah. And
this blind.
And that's Nicholas Latifi very much out of qualifying, and that is another red flag, and I'm fuming as well, because that is a big impact for Nick. A bit battered and bruised. He's out of qualifying, as is Yuki Tsunoda, Lando Norris, Lance Stroll and George Russell. Big look then as he drops
on the turn-in. There's a car on the inside. It never helps because it kind of vision into wheel on the dirt, and that's what's spun him. You can't have your bones into the wall, and he'll have a headache for a day or two after that.
So far so good. As G2 complements the barriers now. We've got our first safety car.
Are you okay, Mick?
Did he go too slowly? That is how Mick Schumacher ended.
It's very like Charles Leclerc, isn't it? In the back end, stepped out on the way in, straight into a cul-de-sac at that point, and you can see how well.
Tech road barrier to the right-hand side. You've also got a Formula One
to go out first rather than...
Right, we've got a red flag, and I think Charles Leclerc might have hit the wall down towards... Oh, and he had...
Are you okay?
Yeah, I am.
It's fairly comprehensive.
Effects of what could be a very high-speed shunt into the tech road barriers. Little look now approaching turn 21 and 22. And rear's gone quite early on there, isn't it?
That is your worst case nightmare. I was talking to Martin. That was a full-on loss of control, and
that's about, Damon, I'd say about 150 miles an hour. He's approaching that corner.
He's turned in, and of course speed or whatever, he's lost his balance, and
Sorry, guys.
Off, and you revolving and turning around as everybody screens and waits to see. Lando Norris was saying it's getting very, very wet. We've got standing, and there is Sebastian Vettel in the Aston Martin.
Oh, I see. It just started to wander into an oversteer and action that actually took him into the barriers. Well, Lando says a bit of aquaplaning, but it didn't stop him going for it. Moved into a bit of an oversteer, and as he corrected it, it suddenly had a too much steering lock on at that moment, and yeah, in the right direction as it went down the hill. Tethers on the wheels, the car start wheels flying up. We have lost one wheel, but the other three, the spectators, and that's what the tethers do. And
Marcin Bukowski is with us from the Alpine.
I was going to say, just upwind it, I'm glad to see it.